Hey guys, it's time to talk about episode 39, the episode we've been anxiously waiting. And this episode was pretty nice. It had some pretty interesting stuff going on. There were many things going on in this episode. And there were some things I liked, there were some things I loved, there were some things I didn't really like. But let's talk about them before talking about the big part, the big reveal that we've been waiting for. Okay, so this episode had a plot that I didn't know that it was going to have. All the fairies, they came around, they joined, they went together just to find a way to help the Precure fight Noir. And first thing that I found very interesting was the fact that there are lots of fairies. And I was not expecting that. To me, the fairies that lived in the forest were the ones, so I was not really expecting the idea of having lots of fairies in this season. So it's very interesting because I like the design. The designs are usually very cute, and we also had the presence of the fairies that became villains in the first episodes. So I really liked that. It was really nice seeing them. And we've been talking in some of the comments that Choro-sama is somewhat irrelevant and wasted in this season because he does nothing and he adds nothing. But in this episode, I think that he was kind of central. He had a very preeminent part, a preeminent importance. And that was very nice because I was expecting him to do something, and so far he didn't do anything. But in this episode, I think that his participation was really nice. It was really interesting, and I liked that a lot. And there was a very cute moment with Pecorin representing Lumiere, and oh my god, that was so cute, and I loved that moment so much. That was a pretty, oh my god, sorry. That was a pretty interesting moment, and that was a cute moment. I loved how she was using lipstick to represent an older woman. And in general, the first part, the setting was very interesting and it was colorful, it was beautiful, but there was one thing that bugged me. When they were talking about the cures said, okay, you can count on us, you can believe that we are gonna fight and we're gonna win. The fairies didn't believe them at all. The fairies were reluctant on believing in the cures, and that is something that for me was strange. I mean, usually the fairies in Precure, they believe in the cures, that they are certain that the cures are gonna win. And in this season, I don't know why, but they didn't believe in the KIRAKIRA cures, and they were reluctant to believe in them. And there was no real reason for that, because so far, there was no real threat in any part of the season. I mean, the cures were always able to overcome everything. So I have no idea why they have this, they've had this, this disbelief in the cures. I have no idea. But okay, moving on. The cures were able to gather their trust because they cooked with them, they teach them how to cook, and they were able to produce lots and lots of kirakiraru. There was also a very beautiful moment with Gummy. Is that his name? I think it is. Gummy giving Picario's body a donut. Gummy was feeling sad because Gummy turned into a villain, and Giulio was the one that made him become a villain. And I loved what he said, and that is something that I don't usually see in an anime for children. When CL Kirarin saw Gummy doing that, she said, "I'm sorry for him." And he said, "No, you're not the one who should apologize to me." I'm meaning Giulio is the one who should apologize to me, and myself as well, because I had darkness in myself. And when he said, like, "You're not the one who should apologize to me," I was like, wow, that's a very good observation. That's a very good observation. He's probably expecting Giulio to tell him that he's sorry for what he did. And, well, if I were in Gummy's shoes, I would be as well. So moving on, we've had a very interesting moment between the villains in the season, which are Grave and Elisio. And it's interesting because Diable fused with Grave's car. We know that, but at the same time, when he fused with Gravescar, he totally lost his ability to talk. He can't really express himself in words anymore because he was able to do that. And now he's only able to show his anger in form of power. You know, he's always angry and he's always accelerating the car, but he can't talk. That's interesting because we don't really know what's going on with Diable, but I'm pretty sure he's probably very angry. But Eliseo had a very interesting talk with Grave, and Grave showed a lot of his true colors in this episode. Grave might become a very interesting villain as well. I mean, he was the only villain that wasn't interesting, along with Diable, that is not very interesting as well. But Eliseo already showed his true colors to us, and I love Eliseo. And now Grave is also showing it. It was also very interesting. So Grave used his power together with Diable, that he's learning how to control them. So we've seen him fighting with Diable before, but now he's actually learning how to use that power for himself, and he was able to turn the people in the village into monsters. I like that idea. I think that it's very close to what a villain should do, but unfortunately that made the girls totally useless. They couldn't fight against them. They couldn't fight against the people, so they lost their willpower to fight, and they weren't able to, to overcome that. So that made the episode kind of boring in the action parts. Even though Yukari tried to attack, it's also very interesting because Yukari was the one that noticed that Diable went missing and Diable was not attacking anymore, and she was also the one that noticed that Diable was now in the car, in Graves' car. And I really liked how all of the girls in this episode were able to shine in one way or another. Custard was able to show how dissatisfied she was with the whole situation, and that's also very interesting because that's usually left for the main girl to show her dissatisfaction in how they are using their powers, and Custard was the one that screamed and that really showed her dissatisfaction, and I really liked that. I really, really liked seeing those kind of things. And another thing that was very interesting, Bibidi. Bibidi has this bashful personality now, but I really liked how things shifted very quickly when she saw everyone and she saw this dark power. She's afraid of the dark power because she's been there. She's been touched by darkness, so she knows how it feels. And her moment with Pecorin was also very nice, very cute. And I also liked seeing Bibidi using her powers. Now she's not a dark person anymore. She's not a villain anymore, but she was able to use a wall of light. It was for a very brief moment. It was very short, it was very quick, but she was able to use that to try to protect the fairies. I was happy to see that. I was actually very happy to see that, and that made things very interesting. I mean, Bibidi can use some sort of power. How nice is that? I loved that. And when I was talking about Grave, Grave showed us. Grave had this little transformation. It's like his becoming a Super Saiyajin, and he showed us a little bit of himself, and he talked about the way Noir manipulates him, because Noir manipulated Bibidi and Noir manipulated Julio, but we know, at least in Julio's case, we know that Julio had some sort of darkness inside him, but ultimately he was a good person. He is a good person. Bibidi, we know that Bibidi's past was twisted and he made her believe that he was saving her, so we also know that Bibidi is also a good person, even though she has this crazy personality, which I love. We know that Bibidi is a good person. We know Bibidi is someone that has a good heart, and he also used that to manipulate Bibidi. But in Graves' case, we don't know Eliseo's case, but in Graves' case, Graves said that he knew exactly what he was doing when he gave himself to Noir. So we don't know why, we don't know who he is, but his case is different from Bibidi, his case is different from Julio, because he's not really being manipulated, he's not being controlled. He wanted to be in that position. It's totally different from what happened, even though Julio had his darkness inside him. So it's totally different. And that's why I think Grave can now become a very interesting villain. So Grave was able to attack girls with no defense, but then we've had the great triumphal return of our dear Picadio. Picadio is now back again. He was able to regain KIRAKIRA and become Julio. But he obviously had this new design. He's now all white. He has this new color scheme. And his participation was very short. He didn't do much, but But there were some interesting moments with Julio there, which I loved. And I loved what he said to Grave. He said, the girls, they can't fight back. I mean, I don't know if he was, I think he was talking to the girls actually. I mean, he was like, you can't fight back. I know that. I know you can't fight. I know that you can't fight against people that are the townspeople. And I understand why you can't do that because you're kind of innocent. I don't know. I don't remember the word he used. But apart from that, I've been touched by the darkness. So I am able to fight back. And that's what he did. He was able to confront Grave and then he appeared in front of everyone. Oh my God, I was so happy seeing him, listening to him, his voice again. It was so nice. I mean, I didn't even know that I missed him this much. I got so emotional, but it was so nice. I loved it. I loved seeing it. And it's interesting because Ichika called him Rio, and I totally forgot that he was called Rio in his human form. So I think that maybe the Julio persona is not even going to be used anymore. I hope not, because I like this name, and I think that's how I like calling him the most. So I don't know. I think that's going to be Rio and Picadio only. But let's see. I don't know. Maybe they will go back to the Julio thing. And Yukari should call him Julio, at least Yukari, because they've had a pretty interesting relationship back then. And I loved seeing that. Anyways, I loved this episode, and I'm even more excited for the next episode. Next episode, the girls are gonna have to fight back in one way or another. And it seems to me, at least from the preview, that the way that they're gonna fight back is by cooking. Is that gonna be interesting? I don't think so. But not actually cooking, baking, right? Making sweets. And I don't know, but I'm curious. And next week, it seems that we're going to have the power-ups. And I'm excited for the power-ups. I'm very, very excited for the power-ups, actually. Guys, thanks so much for watching. Let's discuss this episode. Let's talk about Picadio's short appearance, but emotional appearance. And let's talk about everything that happened. Bibidi, Graves' new appearance, Graves' new look. Graves is kind of scary now. Guys, thanks so much for watching. And until next time, bye-bye.